Today's guest of Multifamily Insights is a 30-year real estate professional who started investing in multifamily more recently. Now, her transition came from being on the agent side to investing in single family rentals before discovering multifamily syndication, investing as an LP, and now as a general partner as well. If you are looking to grow and scale your portfolio and make that transition yourself, you definitely want to check out our conversation today with Cindy Beier. Check out today's show right here, Multifamily Insights. When you think you found a great deal, asking the right questions could be the difference in finding a stud or a dud. Listen, we've put together a new guide to help you out. It's called 7 Questions You Must Ask Before Investing in Apartments. Now, in this guide, you're going to learn how to uncover red flags, quickly identify underwriting risk, vet sponsors and team members, and confirm key assumptions. Now, this is a guide that's going to help you be a better investor, whether you're an active investor or you're a passive investor looking to partner with other operators. Asking better questions is the key to identifying great opportunities. So download this free guide. Go to our website, casmoncapital.com/7 questions. That's the number 7 questions. And you can access this free guide today. To make it easy on you, though, we've put a link in our show notes. So you go to the show notes, you can click that link and access the guide right now. This guide's going to help you make better investment choices, asking the right questions to build your portfolio. So be sure to download it today. Now, Cindy Beier is the owner of Emerald Peak Holdings and CNS Management Company. Now, currently, she is raising capital for multi-million-dollar projects throughout the United States, and she also manages tenants and maintains properties. Now, she began, led, and organized a local group of women in real estate for over 2 years, as well as the Burr Group. Let's welcome to the show, Cindy Beier.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having me on the show today.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on, Cindy. I went over your background at a very, very high level. Why don't you take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps?
Okay, John, I'll try to do that. I started in real estate, it's 30 years ago, so I'm dating myself a bit. And I have done a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but I think I've finally landed in my sweet spot. I was a licensed realtor. I sold new construction. I managed a real estate office. And a few years later, after some live-in flips and a majority of, or a list of other things, here I am in multifamily and capital raising.
So your background, you mentioned 30 years in real estate, being an agent, selling new construction, doing some live-in flips. Talk to us a little bit more about that journey, as you were kind of on your path in real estate. It sounds like primarily on the agent or broker side before transitioning to the investor side. What really was the spark to make you say, you know what, let me get on the other side of this table?
Yeah. Well, I became a realtor when I was in my mid 20s. And I had come out of the Air Force, actually. And I came back and it's like, well, what am I going to do with myself now? Right. I just learned how to shine my boots and play some cards and, guard things in Europe. So I came back and computers were just really coming to the forefront, like Microsoft Word and all that were coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new world because I'd been in Europe. And I just started working part-time answering phones in a real estate office. And luckily, the lady who owned the office saw something in me and she trained me to be her first ever protege. And so that's how I learned real estate and got my license. But she always told me education is the key. Get as many designations as you could. And she highly suggested I go to this and that. And so one time I went to a day, convention, and there was a gentleman there and he spoke and he was just this very quiet man, just very plainly dressed, but he was up there speaking and he was saying, here's what I do. Here's how I became a millionaire. Every year I go and I find a property or I find a list of properties and I call my agent and I say, okay, I want to look at these 5 properties, and he'll pick one. And every year he would buy one and he would finance it for 15 years. And by the time he was 40, 45 years old, he paid them all off and he had, 15 years, 15 houses of money. of income and rent. And so he didn't need to keep working. And that kind of struck a chord with me as far as investing. So I did buy some properties along the way, and I currently do have, let's see, four single family and one short term rental. So, but now I have the multifamily bug. So I'm ready to move on to that. And I'm preparing to sell a couple of those single families and transition them into multifamily.
Talk to me more about that because I love that you are focused on education and you talked about really coming back from the military and not knowing where to start. You know, the technology's taken over, which is interesting because someone could say technology is taking over now with AI and everything else, right? But you go into that office, you're working, the person running the office sees something in you, tells you about educating yourself. You go to this event, hear this gentleman speak, and that plants this bug in your ear to say, okay, hey, you should be making sure that you're investing in assets as well. So you start doing that. I assume you know a lot of real estate agents, or I've met plenty of agents over the years who are not investing. For those folks who are in the industry, but not necessarily investors themselves, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, if you're not an investor, but you'd like to be an investor, I think, because partly because you're not sure, then the passive investing like in multifamily syndication is a great way to get started. You just, you group your money in a syndication with other investors, and you kind of just sit back and reap the benefits of most likely quarterly returns, and then, a payout at 2, maybe 5 years. So it's a lot easier when you go multifamily, I realized. One of the things is the reason I'm going multifamily is, for example, tomorrow I don't have time to meet my handyman who needs to fix the toilet. And last week, luckily, I have a great appliance repairman because he had to go to two of my properties in the same day. I had um, a dryer not heating, and what else did I have? Oh, oven door was not closing, and so I was able to call on my guy, but, it's just more work. When you go into multifamily, you usually have a property manager and it's just passive income. Right now, I have to answer the phone. I've got to make arrangements with my handyman, and I just want to move on past that.
Talk to us about scaling a multifamily because what I'm hearing you say is you're still heavily involved with the single families, right? So you're having to place those calls to the handyman, to the appliance guy, making sure the right people are at the right place at the right time, doing all that. But with multifamily, it's scaled up. You've got a team, you've got a property manager, so there's a little bit less, let's call it less reliance on you as an individual to handle all of those day-to-day things. What was the impetus for you to say, you know what, I need to be scaling multifamily and starting to go up as opposed to just buying more houses?
Well, back to the education. I joined a mastermind, and I just really saw the other side by educating myself and realizing that you can scale faster when you go with multifamily. When you have a vacancy in one unit, you can't pay the rent or the mortgage. You can, you should have reserves and stuff, but, your unit's vacant, there's no income coming in. Multifamily, you have income coming in even if you have a vacancy. So that was one of the things, is I just started to educate myself and realize, that I can do this. And I never thought I could do this. I never imagined I could be an owner of an apartment building, and I am now. I'm an LP, a limited partner on two properties that total 100 and I think 102 units. And I'm also a GP on both of those properties because I invested and I brought other investors to the project. So I've already received my quarterly distributions. And I was so excited that it was just there in my bank account. And I didn't have to deal with tenants' toilets and trash, or dishwashers, ovens, and toilets this week. So it's so much easier. And it's the same amount. I have a condo that I had bought during COVID. And I put 70,000 down. And every month, or every year, the HOA keeps going up and up. And um, even though my interest rate is only three and a quarter on this property, the HOA keeps going up and up. So I'm making $200-300 a month on that. Um, it's not worth it. And I'm making a little bit more on a $25,000 investment in a syndication. If I had known 4 years ago what I know now, I could have taken that 70 and put it into a syndication and be making three times the amount as I am now quarterly. And I would be probably most likely doubling my investment. I already did double my investment, and that's why I'm ready to move on and sell it and put it into another property where I can again double my investment.
Yeah, and Cindy, what you're talking about is really there's the time value of money, but then there's the work. And I think unfortunately, what gets overlooked a lot of times when people talk about real estate investing is the return on your work and return on effort, not just return on your investment. And it's easy to look at the numbers and say, oh, okay, if you invest XYZ, you're going to make this. But if you're the one that's got to be involved, even if you have a property manager, if you're the one that's got to stay on top of that property manager and essentially be the asset manager, you've got to help identify those vendors, the appliance guys, and all of these different things. That's still a lot of work you're putting into the project. And a lot of times people aren't factoring that work in and getting the return on that work. And if you were to include that, it's as if you were almost a third person or third party individual, you would see that the returns are actually much lower when you're buying some of these smaller properties. And to your point, when you're investing in larger properties, it's not to say that it's always going to be an easier investment to make, but you're not the one doing that work, right? You're going to look for the right deals to invest in. You're looking for a team that can operate and execute. And then you're putting your money to work and just simply getting that return versus, that deal with the HOA. You're dealing with the HOA, that's going up every year, every month. So that's cutting into your profits. You got to figure out, regulation changes may happen, in single family environments, similar things, right? Where you may have folks who don't really want renters in that community or that neighborhood. So there's definitely some challenges that you have to navigate there that aren't as prevalent when it comes to multifamily investing. You mentioned just, being able to invest as an LP and kind of coming in as a general partner on these deals as a limited partner. And for those folks who are looking to invest passively, what are some of the key things that you're paying attention to when analyzing a deal?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you always want to work with people who have experience. You always want to make sure that the person, the operator, has been through a full cycle. You want to ask them, if there's a downturn in the market, what are you going to do? Are you going to do a capital call? Are you Are you conservative with your numbers? I think those things are important. And there's always that saying, um, under promise and over deliver. So, I'd rather have them say, okay, this is going to be a 2x return and it comes back at 2.5, right? Because they, worked a little harder and, the returns came back better. And so that's what I look for. I also, look for a good location. There's always things you want to find out about the locations of the properties, what kind of workforce is there, um, what might be coming in, what might be going out. Those are important things as well that I look for.
Yeah, you talked about basically the operator experience, the relationship with that person, conservative underwriting, making sure that they're under promising and over delivering, and then the location of the property as well. What are the market dynamics? What's happening in that area? Three important things to pay attention to whenever you're looking to invest passively. Now, on the active side, right, as a general partner, when you're talking to investors, what are some key things that you like to highlight or some key questions that investors ask you?
They want to know what the returns are,
How much can I make?
Right,
Right.
exactly. I always make sure I know the numbers in the deal and I go over them with them. I'm meeting with somebody today actually to go over a new deal that I have. And, he wanted to know what the loan to value was going to be on the property. He wanted to know, this is a little different property, but how much is the operator, putting in the deal themselves? How much, is general partner LP, where are the funds divided up? When and where am I going to get my returns, and that type of thing.
Yeah, great questions, right? I mean, this are some of the typical things that you do here. Investors certainly want to know how much they're going to make. They want to know where there's potential risk. We know loans have been a challenge for many investors, so they're going to ask more questions about the loans. So we're definitely seeing more and more of those kind of questions from investors. What's your criteria? You talked a little bit about the operator themselves and making sure you're investing with good people. When you look at whether it be markets or deal size, like what are some other things that you're paying attention to as far as your buyer's criteria?
Um, for buyers that are going to
Well, I should
invest,
say investing criteria. Let me say it that way. What are some of the other
investing
things you're looking
criteria.
at for your
Yeah.
investing criteria?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm looking at location, 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 right? So you always just want to make sure that you're going to continually have a good economic stability in the area. But that doesn't always mean that it's going to be a class A property, right? You can still have economic stability with a class B or possibly a class C where you just have a consistent workforce of people. I bought a property actually in Tennessee where they were building $1 billion um, electric plant there. And so I said, hey, and so I bought that single family house, but guess what? It's closing next week and I'm selling it after 2 years because I'm like, hey, I can take that and put that into a multifamily. But that was kind of what I looked for in that particular area. But it's always, I think about location, location, location. It's about the operator. You just want to make sure they have experience and look at their past properties. And I think you can even talk to other investors maybe that they have that have invested in their deals and ask them, would you, well, I don't know if you always can find that out, but and I do have a list somewhere here in my office of questions that you can ask an operator. So I can always provide that. I think it's like probably 40 questions that you can ask an operator and see if they have the answers to those questions. But it's hidden somewhere in my flowers.
Well,
So
great questions to ask, right? You definitely want to make sure you know more about the operator, how they view the marketplace, what's going on. And you talked about the location. I think it's really important as well to understand not just the macro market dynamics, but the micro market dynamics as well, because, there's great places in every metropolitan and there's some less than desirable places in every metro. So just understanding where you're investing is definitely a great step to take when you're analyzing deals. Talk to me about the mastermind just a little bit more, right? So you and I have known each other for some time through Mike Ely's mastermind. I know you've been able to connect with other investors and you join other groups as well. But when you're a member of a group like that, where do you get the value and how do you maximize the exposure and opportunity to connect with other investors?
that is a great question. I was just on a call this morning with 6 other investors, and you just pick up so much knowledge from other people. When you have more than one brain, more than one mind working together, a mastermind, right? So we're all putting our thoughts together. And I look back and we had some new folks on today and they were just, you know, did not know
Deer in the
what we were
headlights,
talking.
right?
Yeah, they were. And then there was the other couple of us who've been around for a while, and I could hear myself educating them. And it felt good because I remember when I didn't know any of that stuff myself. So I love being in the mastermind and just being able to meet with other people that are like minded. I have grown so much from being able to do that. And I'm in like 4 different groups because I just enjoy connecting with people. I enjoy learning from others. I feel like I have to do to learn, number one. Sometimes we have to make mistakes to learn as well. And sometimes we can learn from the mistakes of others because Mike always talks about, you know, how he lost everything and then came back. And when I have days when I think, oh, this is not going well, I think to myself, Mike lost it all and he came back. I can do this too. So I always try to just think about people who lost everything or made a mistake but learned. And you know even I'm a mom, so back in the day my daughter used to play soccer, and she had this coach, and she'd say, you can't, every time you win you're not really learning. You don't learn until you lose, because you don't know how to get better. If you win every single time, you're never going to learn anything. So that kind of stuck with me as well over the years.
No, I love that, and my boys play soccer as well, and I ended up coaching a lot of sports, but not soccer. But with football, I always tell the kids, you either win or you get feedback, and you've got to be able to just embrace the feedback, right? Like, what happened? Why did we lose? What do we need to improve? What do we need to work on? And you just got to take that, And the wins are great, to your point, but you're not going to get better off the wins, right? The wins just show you that whatever you did in preparation was enough for that day, but there are going to be days where it's not going to be enough. And that's where you get that feedback and you've got to make some adjustments. So, as investors, we know that it's cyclical, right? There are days where I'm sure everyone feels like they're doing great and making money. And now we're in a little bit of a different season. Just talk about that, right? You're 30 years in real estate. You've certainly seen some ups, you've seen some downs. For those folks who maybe are feeling a little bit down based on where the market is today, what advice would you give them about maybe sustaining and pushing through the current market cycle?
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah, I mean, I saw a social media post in one of my groups the other day, and somebody said, "When did you buy your first house, and what was the interest rate?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." My first interest rate was like 8%. And I have this little card that I've had forever in my office. I don't know if I have it right here, but this was back before, you could just talk to AI and ask what the mortgage payment was. And I used to look at that little card and you could go 8%, and I'd think, oh, if the rate was 4% or 5%, I could buy this much more house, right? And so, but I also look back, and my broker who taught me, originally took me under her wing. I had a little condo, and we would sit there. I bought it for like 35,000, and we would sit there and we'd say, how high can these condos sell for? And I remember she said something like, do you think they could sell for 130,000? I'm like, no, they're never going to sell for 130,000. I think she sold her condo in there for like 175 when she finally decided, okay, it's time to move on from being a landlord. And it's just amazing that you just don't realize it. So I still think buying, even though rates are a little bit higher right now, is okay, because it's definitely going to go up in value. I mean, it's been shown historically. Real estate will increase in value no matter what. It may go down, but it definitely goes up no matter what. So I would say get started today. Don't wait another minute. There's so many opportunities out there. I mean, even in multifamily investing, if you think, I don't have any money to do this, you might have money you don't know you have, like, for example, like a self-directed IRA. If you have money from an old job that's just sitting there and you're like, what am I going to do with this? I can't roll it over. I don't want to, or I forgot, because I recently did that. I took three small ones and rolled it over it into one and then invested it. So it's working for me now. So there's so many opportunities, that you can do. And I also teach people how to make a little money to be able to invest if they're a non-accredited investor. And then, of course, there are accredited investors who can put a little bit more into their investments.
Yeah, those are great tips, especially just recognizing that over the long haul, real estate goes up in value. We're not saying it's going to be worth more tomorrow than it is today or next year than it is this year. But over the long haul, historically speaking, the last 100 years, real estate goes up in value. So if you can take that long view, you're going to be in a good situation as far as your investing goes. So lots of great, simple, but practical wisdom in getting started today. And I think if I could say the takeaway a little bit differently, it's don't wait for rates to drop or wait for whatever you think is holding you back. There's no perfect time to invest.
No.
Like if you're waiting for rates to come back down to 4% or 5% or whatever it is, that's not going to get it there, right? So focus on investing when it makes sense with the right strategy and let the timing of the market take care of itself because you hear these economists and they come on all the time and they tell you this is going to happen or that's going to happen and half the time they're just completely wrong. And if you're making decisions and investing decisions based off of the assumptions of some of these people, you can miss a lot of great opportunities. So I just say, hey, have a great criteria, have a great investing thesis of the kind of investments you're looking for, figure out how to make sure that you don't lose money and you're investing with a long view and get started today. Cindy, really good stuff there. For folks that want to learn more about you, they can check out your website, emeraldpeaksolutions.com. If they want to reach out, they can email you. Your email address is cindy@cindyspropertysolutions.com. We will put a link to that in our show notes below. Right now, we're
Thanks.
going to transition and go to our round of insights. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmoncapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. All right, Cindy, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Oh, let's see. I think it's kind of a small thing, but again, it's something that stuck with me. And it has to do with real estate, sort of, but, don't go spend your money until you walk away from the closing table with your check. And it's a small thing, but I remember, I went and bought this expensive couch, and we never did close on that property. It fell through on the inspection. So, don't spend your money until it's in your bank account. So that's one of the things I learned in real estate.
Tough lesson, but glad you learned it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for our listeners.
I just love YouTube University. You can just scroll through there and find so many things about real estate or other things that you're interested in. I like gardening. You can kind of tell with my background. So there's always little tidbits. I wish that we had had that. I mean, I don't love that we live on technology, but I do wish that when I was younger, we had a little bit more of that too. So we wouldn't have to drive to the library, check out a book. And so it's nice to just be able to educate yourself in different areas just on YouTube University. So that's right.
Speaking of the library and books, give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I actually have it right here, the 12-week year. Get more done in 12 weeks than others do in 12 months. I think this is great. One of the things that I like about it is they talk about, breaking up your year into 12 weeks. So at the end of the 12 weeks, if you haven't gotten to your goal, that's okay. You still haven't, then you can work on it in the next 12 weeks. It's almost like a new year. Like we have a New Year's resolution, on January 1. Well, you can do that every 12 weeks is have your resolution. I'm going to do this. So I highly recommend that book. One of the other books that for me didn't work is like that 5 a.m. club. I have a lot of friends who say they love that, but I'm not a 5 a.m. person. That was one of the things about the military. I was like, I am never going to have a job where I need to get up at 3:45 in the morning. And that is one of the things that I love about real estate is I can get up when I like getting up, which is about 6:15 in the morning. So anyway, 5 a.m. club, I hear it's great, but it's not for me.
If they made the 6 a.m. club, you might be in, but not
I
5
might
a.m.,
be
right?
fine. Yeah, exactly.
I got you. Got you. All right. Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Um, I think just family. That's not a daily habit, but I think they help me stay focused. I still have one child in school, and just getting up and staying in the routine keeps me focused and keeping my family in where they need to be, where we all need to be. We all kind of focus on goals together. My husband's a few years older than me. He's closer to retirement. So that's what we're focused on right now for the whole family. We still have a 14-year-old, but we're my husband's 61. So, you know, we still got to keep getting up every day and not necessarily be retiring as quickly, but that's okay. So maybe the kids have kept us focused on our goals.
Give me your number one insight for scaling into multifamily from residential.
Um, my insight on that is to just go straight to multifamily, skip the single family, or do some other like flips, take that money and then put it into multifamily is kind of what I would do. I definitely would not just let it sit there and have to manage the property. I just love being in multifamily now. I can't say it enough. It's just the dividends are there, every quarter, and it's just going so smoothly. So,
All right. You are in the Denver metro area. So give me your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
I love Mexican food. And so there's a place, Los Dos. I don't even know what the real name is. Los Dos, the Trios, maybe. Just because we call it Los Dos. And I just went there the other night and I couldn't believe the view out the windows. I'm like, why haven't I been to this location before? And they've got them all over. So yeah, I was supposed to have a lunch meeting at Los Dos today, but it got canceled. So definitely like that place. You can eat chips and salsa all day long there.
Those it is. Well, Cindy, really enjoyed our conversation. A couple things stand out, right? So for you, getting started in real estate came from, the military. And as you got started, you were kind of just working in a real estate office. And from there, you ended up getting your experience, getting your license, continue to educate yourself, learning more about different strategies, selling new construction, all sorts of properties, and ultimately becoming an investor yourself. And as you become an investor, you've realized that, hey, investing in these larger multifamily deals, particularly through syndications, has some advantages that were really great for you, right? Don't have to deal with the contractors, the residents, the renovations, and all that stuff yourself. You're not running around and chasing these repairmen and these appliance guys. You can really rely on someone else to do all of that work. And now you can focus on scale. You're investing your money, you're bringing your friends and family and other folks along for the ride with you, investing in these syndication deals. And if folks want to learn more, they can go to your website, which is emeraldpeaksolutions.com. And again, we'll put both your website and your email address in the show notes below. But Cindy, I want to thank you for coming on Multifamily Insights and sharing a little bit more about your story and also talking about, the mastermind and some of the benefits you get from being involved in a mastermind. I think that's helpful for all of our listeners. Cindy, thanks again for being a great guest. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, John. You as well.